This is Mouth Media Network, the business of being heard.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Funny People Talking. I'm one of your hosts, Mark Rako. I'm so happy you're here for the ride. We'll be back very soon with Dresden and Elsie. In the meantime, thought we'd share just a really great interview I had done some time ago on another podcast at Mouth Media Network, where we used to record the podcast Girls Gotta Eat for a little while. If you're not familiar with it, and absolutely they're crushing it. It is a hugely popular podcast hosted by Ashley Hesseltine and Rayna Greenberg. Ashley is a stand-up comedian, writer, founder of Bros Being Basic and Fashion Dads, amongst other things. Rayna is a writer, photographer, founder of One Hungry Jew. After just a few dozen episodes, they had already achieved millions of downloads, had multiple sold-out live audience shows. We're already on a trajectory to be one of the podcasts to emulate, which they clearly have become. On iTunes alone, they have more than 22,000 reviews. That is just incredible. In any event, they sat down with me some time ago to share why they started the podcast, how it's developed into such a hit, why they integrated live shows so early into their journey, why they never expected the show to take on a life of its own, and thinking about the podcast as a real startup business, the impending live show tour they were coming up on at the time, and just a lot of laughs and great insights into Ashley, Rayna, and Girls Gotta Eat. So I really hope that you will take time to listen to this interview on how the desire to share life's realities as women in dating, sex, and more turned into a real growing business as podcasters with the show Girls Gotta Eat. All right, well, enjoy the interview, and we'll see you next week.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Funny People Talking and Elsie at Elsie the Producer. And please, for the love of all that is holy, subscribe to the show and leave us a damn review and a really, really good rating on iTunes. Pretty please? Thank you.
Ashley Hesseltine and Rayna Greenberg, the hosts of the incredibly popular show Girls Gotta Eat. Welcome to the show. Thank you for taking a few minutes.
Thank you for having us.
Let's start quickly just for our listeners and familiarize them with what crazy thing you two are doing with this Girls Gotta Eat show. How did you meet? Why are you doing the show? And what is the show? Not just what the listener hears, but what is it to you?
Sure.
Can we start with you, Rayna?
Yeah. Why don't I tell you what the show is first? And then Ashley, we're like a married couple. I'm like, honey, you tell the story. Okay. She tells it better than me. We like to laugh.
I know. Anyways, I would just like to say to our listeners, just like hang on to your hats for the next few minutes.
We're gonna reel it in. So Girls Gotta Eat is a comedy podcast about sex, dating, and relationships. It started off as us just sort of joking about our own lives and talking about our experiences. But I think that the longer we do this, the more I realize that it's a really cool, fun way to really normalize the conversation about what is going on in the dating world and what are people experiencing and what are questions people have about sex. And we get hundreds of emails a week from people that I think maybe think they're alone, but we get the same 10 emails, from everybody. And I think people really want these things to be discussed. So it's been really fun. We try to put a really funny spin on everything. And we're super fortunate to have really, really cool guests most weeks as well.
Yeah. We met on a press trip. Rayna and I are both Instagram influencers, for lack of a better word.
Fair followings and a very,
over
very,
a million,
very engaged followings.
Yes, yes. Well, and the following on the Girls Gotta Eat Instagram is like even more engaged than our other ones. Like it's great. So we met on a press trip in Aruba at a dinner on the beach with our toes in the sand, sitting across from each other. And we became friends. And honestly, it was only a few months after that I approached Rayna with this podcast idea. She was on board immediately. We just had been talking a lot about relationships and our shitty dating stories and, you know, our past. And I want to do a podcast about dating and relationships, my favorite thing to talk about. And I think talking about this stuff helps everybody else in similar situations. And like Rayna said, I mean, it's shocking how, I guess I just grew up with like so many great girlfriends, and my mom's super supportive. And it's shocking that we hear girls be like, you made me feel like I'm not alone. Where it's like, that's become our goal. It's like, we like help people and empower people. We never really knew that we were going to do that, you know?
Yeah.
I think that was the goal. It wasn't just to like dick around and talk about like our funny dating stories, but I mean, it's morphed into like, we realize that there's an impact there.
How much of what people hear on the show is really the you that you are in your private life? And I don't mean the stories.
I think about this a lot so we said we're going to be doing some live shows, which we'll talk about, but I've invited my really good friends and Ashley's really good friends to the shows. And I've thought a lot about like when somebody sees me on stage or hears me doing the podcast, do they say to themselves, this is an authentic representation of who this girl is? Yeah. And I think that, I mean, I listen to Ashley on the show. I can't speak for myself, but I listen to you and you're exactly who you are every single day when I listen to you.
Yeah.
I might be a little more amped up and like, I'll maybe like let loose and let it rip a little more than I would in like polite company. But
I think about like, for example, your logo or your avatar is the two of you on a bed in lingerie. And my question for you, no judgment zone, is how much of that is the you want to put out to the world, and you do typically in your private life put out to the world, versus you've created this version of yourself that is still authentic, but is one corner of yourself that you've siloed for the purposes of your podcast branding and messaging?
Well, I will say that the lingerie we never knew that was going to be the image that was everywhere. And the thing that yes, we're wearing quote unquote lingerie, but like we have each have a bottle of champagne in our hands and we're laughing hysterically. Like our faces don't even look pretty. Like it's really, we're like, our faces are like hysterically laughing. And that's what I love about it, because it's so not sexy. Like
the photo was an accident. We were actually
total candid.
We were in a hotel room with a photographer. We just wanted to get a couple shots for the website. Again,
Valentine's Day was coming up. We were like kind of being funny.
Yeah, we were just being funny. It was one of 10 outfits that we had with us and different food. And this was just an accidental outtake that happened.
But by the way, having been in the studio with you while you're recording, I feel this moment of accidental outtake and laughing. That is a majority of what's happening in the studio is unexpected.
And I guess to answer your question, I don't know. I don't even, there is no way I could perform for this podcast. You know, like I turn it on. I'm a comedian. Like I know how to. Yeah,
you're a genuine stand-up comedian.
Stand-up comedian. I know timing and things like that. But like it's my 100% real personality. I don't hold anything back. I mean, we just did an episode that felt very personal to me, and I shared a story that I didn't even really anticipate I was ever going to share. And I did, because I think we've let these people into our lives. We're not naming names and we're not calling people out and putting people on blast. But I think like this is what I always knew was going to happen, that like people. And it's not super creepy yet, but like, people know these things about us and they come up to us on the street. And I mean, it's 100% real. It would be very weird to me, and I'm sure Rayna too, to actually hang out with her all the time and then she's a different person in the studio. I wouldn't. It would be weird. So it's not like that.
So how interesting. We will get to this in just a moment about now being in front of live audiences, where you've crossed the line from the distance of digital to the reality of being in the room with people that see that you're real. We'll get to it in a second, but one thing I want to go back to is that moment when you said, this should be a podcast. I should do a podcast, and hey, Rayna, will you do it with me? Why was that a decision that you made, that it was important for you to have a platform different from ones you may have used before to express and share such personal things and viewpoints? Why was that important? And did you come to that decision?
I just like feel so passionately about like relationships and the psychology behind them. And I went through a really tough breakup and like I couldn't shut the fuck up about it. Can we curse? Sorry.
It's done. It's happened. We can't go back.
I went through a really tough breakup and I couldn't shut up about it. You know, it was just like obsessive, and
it was fine, by the way.
I feel like I was like talking about my relationship and analyzing other relationships. And I just became so fascinated with like the human experience with dating and relationships and sex. And I've always been really open about that. And so I knew I just wanted to talk about it on a podcast. And like, Rayna, it's crazy because I didn't know that we would have this chemistry. Rayna didn't either. We didn't know that this would happen. Like, what if we would have tried to record the first one and we didn't have this chemistry we thought? But I thought she was like the perfect person that was super open about her life and honest and like not trying too hard to impress people and be a different person and just super authentic as a person.
So what about you, Rayna? Why did you decide to do this? Not just, hey, it'll be fun, but why? This wasn't just like, I'll do it one time. It was like, this is a thing I'm going to be doing now for however long. And obviously now it's become a meaningful part of your career. Why did you do it?
I mean, this took on a life of its own that I never expected. And it certainly was something I was like, oh, I'll start a podcast one day. But I think a lot of people
had thought about it. This wasn't like when I approached her, she was like, yeah, I have thought about it. I actually think I said, have you thought about doing a podcast before?
It's the new blog. It's really the new blog.
Yeah. But
she was like, yeah, of course I have. Like, I say the most ridiculous shit. Like, it should be out in the world.
Why contain this? Why should this be?
She never had a job in like comedy or anything. It's just this talent that wasn't being used. And I feel like I knew that. And I was like, let's put this out there to the world.
Yeah, but I never thought about this being a career. This is only in my mind was going to be like a hobby and like a fun, silly thing I could do with this girl that I really liked, who I thought was smart. And if people liked it, great. And it really, we are so fortunate to have met a lot of people that have helped us along the way, like the Mouth Media team and our agents and people like that. But it really is like, I'll attribute so much of this to me and Ashley working together. And I never knew that I would have to make her my business partner. And I never knew I'd have to make calculated business decisions and risks with her and compromise with another person. And neither of us have worked with another person in a very long time. So, to find somebody that I can compromise with and make these decisions with. But, it's so much more than just like pop into the studio, spend an hour chit-chatting. It's a business. There's a lot of decisions that come from it.
It is interesting because it really is a startup. Because think about so many startup founders, they don't say, I have an idea. I'm now going to go recruit the perfect business partner. It's two people that are chatting over beer and they say, what we should do is this. And hey, let's farm it out. Also, we're like, it turns into a business. You never thought about, is this a person I want to be in business with for years?
Rayna says that all the time. Like, she never thought about it. She was like, yeah, let's do it.
I didn't really know Ashley. I mean, I didn't know her that well. And so, like, she was somebody that I was just like, yeah, I'd get drinks with this girl. She seems cool and fun and smart. Right. And I would listen to what this person has to say.
Well, and I don't want to, Rayna said that this kind of like, she had an idea that was like a hobby. And I don't want to like take anything away from that. But I think I realized early on that we were treating it the same way. Like, it wasn't just like throw this out all willy-nilly into the world. We like researched all the equipment. We were very set on, Rayna had a whole vision for the photo shoot. Like, we released it where we had photos and we had a logo and which has since changed, and it's amazing because we have this amazing graphic designer. But like, we're going to launch this in the right way. Right. We took it very seriously. And I love that about her because I think it would have really sucked for both of us if one person had this, like, I do things right and I do things this way. And the other person was like, no, just do whatever.
Right. And I want to backtrack a little bit. When I say it was a hobby, I mean, like, she met me at the Bean with her dog one afternoon, like months before, and was like, what would you ever think about doing this? And, once we decided to do it, it was like, we need a logo. We need a website.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
We need people that can help us along the way.
So you had a business mindset right from as soon as it was a decision to do, which a lot of podcasters, I don't know that they think that way in it.
And we like split the responsibilities and it just seemed to fall into place, so which was nice.
So I did a keynote down in Florida to podcasters. There was, 800 or 1,000 podcasters in the room. And I did a poll of the room and I asked them why they do podcasts or are about to do a podcast. And what I found was the vast majority of the people in the room were not doing a podcast primarily to make money or even to propel their business, although those both did enter in the conversation for many people. It actually primarily was to inspire or educate people. So for you, in terms of doing this podcast, I heard why you decided to do a podcast, but as you sat down, you said, okay, we need a logo, we need to do this, blah, blah, blah. How much of that was deciding to drive a new business idea? And how much of it was just not to embarrass yourself with something half-ass?
I don't know that we thought we were going to make like a fortune from it. Not that we're like, I don't think I sat down and thought to myself, like, I want to make this my career only financially.
Yeah.
But when we decided to do it, it was like, this is going to be a business. If we're going to do anything and put our names on it, this is what it's going to be.
Yeah. I kind of thought this was going to be my next business venture. Like Rayna and I both we make the bulk of our income via Instagram. I think we're both smart enough to know that one day the bubble will burst, like hopefully not anytime soon. And so I was thinking of like, what's the next thing? Not that podcasts are new by any stretch, but I don't know. I don't really do. I don't think Rayna does either. I don't do like pet project shit. Like it's like we're gonna make some money, and so it was like, of course, we never could have. You can never predict the future, but I feel like we knew we had such a quality podcast. So like, of course, people are going to subscribe. Of course, people are going to download it, and of course, we're going to make some money. And we were early on. We were like, we're going to hit that point. We're going to make some money. We're going to do this, and I think both of us kind of.
Now you have some real traction. One could argue you have some real traction here. You don't have 1 million listeners yet, but you don't have 100 either. Are you comfortable saying where your listenership is?
I will say it grows exponentially every week. Like every Monday we have a significant jump from the next Monday. Every day
you have tens of thousands of listeners, would be fair to say.
God. Okay. And we've had way over 1 million downloads.
You've had well over 1 million downloads in just 33 episodes or whatever it is?
Yeah, 32 episodes.
32 episodes. Okay. So you're clearly doing something right. How much of that is because you are influencers and you are able to, you have strong social media platform presence and you're able to drive that? And how much do you feel is what you have done with the podcast itself?
So,
do you have some sense of that?
I do, actually. And, I think that we're super lucky to have the social media following that we do and that people were able to organically find us that way. But so many people tell each other about the show and tag each other on social media. And Ashley and I think, are very fortunate to understand social media and how to use it as a tool. But I also think that, people give you one chance and they tune into one episode. And if it sucks, they're not coming back. So I think that, it's great we have this following to get people to listen one time, but if it's not quality content, they're never coming back.
Yeah.
And do you have some sense of, what are some things, if any, that you've started to do in the way that you program your show that you have realized will drive engagement? Anything in particular that you've
Just
started
making
to do?
It awesome or? No, I mean, well, and just to piggyback what Rayna said, we were so lucky to have the social media following that we did. Both of our big accounts, over 1 million followers. We were able to launch the podcast. We feel so lucky to do that. We don't know how people do it. And we were lucky to get it to people. But if we never posted on those accounts again, I don't even know if it would have an effect. So now it doesn't, we have the Girls Gotta Eat handles, but now it's just people spreading the word. It's people subscribing, tuning in, and doing our work for us, and it's this huge, amazing word of mouth. And, we've gotten a little press here and there and all this stuff. So, what was the question?
Well,
how you formatted the show.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because if I go back and listen to the first episode, the second episode, they're really not that different. We have a set way we do it. We always want people to engage or just hear the two of us if we're going to have a guest. So we always start it with just the two of us. I think people want to know what's going on in our lives. And then if we have a guest, we bring in the guest and then we play the game at the end. I think we started that doing a little differently. We would go live on social media and we didn't totally love it. But now, I think people look forward to the game and then the games are usually based on user emails and submissions. So
do you feel you just found a white space that, because you're predominantly a female audience, it seems.
Probably, yes? Predominantly.
Yeah. And would you say that you just sort of found a white space you almost hadn't realized was there, that people were hungry for this kind of content? Because it seems like you've had quite a good response.
Yeah.
Very early.
We only know one other podcast we even think is similar to ours. I'm sure they're popular one. We don't know any other ones. It's just all girls do is sit down for drinks and talk about dating and relationships and sex. And it's how is this not the most popular category? There's not even a category for it.
The funny thing is the most popular category is religion and spirituality. So
okay. Well, there's comedy and there is a subset for relationships, but they're more serious. There's doctors, there's relationship experts.
Yeah, it's family. It doesn't even say relationships.
Right. And a friend of mine said one of the most brilliant things Ashley ever did was naming this a comedy show because it fell into this category and allowed us to sort of make this what it is. And I think our audience has really allowed us to sort of toggle between really serious episodes and serious guests and really funny, ridiculous, hysterical stuff.
Look, as a stand-up comedian, one thing you definitely know, Ashley, is comedy that's forced or synthetic, not authentic, does not connect with the audiences. The best comedy seems to me, I know this from my tiny, tiny little stint as trying out stand-up, is it backfired when I tried to make up shit. But when I actually did talk about things that happened to me, those were the best.
The authenticity.
Exactly. So I'm wondering if that has a lot to do with what's been successful here.
Well, and also I'll say that like I forget what I was going to say. With the comedy part of it, there's comedy podcasts out there that's like two comedians, two funny people. Rayna is not technically a comedian, but she is to me. And everyone else, because she's so hilarious.
You got to be. You're both cracking up all the time. You crack each other up. So someone's funny.
A lot. I think sometimes comedians make podcasts, not all, and they just sit around and shoot the shit. And we like have a plan. Like we have pre-meetings about our topics. Like we want it to be super valuable, super meaningful, and get something out of it. And you know why you tuned into that title. And like I think I never want to. I don't care. It's going to be my two favorite comedians in the world, and them sitting around just shooting the shit is never going to be the type of podcast I'm going to listen to. So I think we were able to combine this humor and comedy into like valuable life advice and nail it.
Okay.
But you are also very open about your life. Like I couldn't do this show with somebody that wasn't willing to be like, here's a wound. Like I'm going to bear it. And I think that like not everybody wants to do that. And I actually am probably a more authentic version of myself in this room than I am anywhere else in the world. Just because this allows me to sort of air that. I'm I would say a little more private in social settings. But I think her and I both are fortunate to work for ourselves, so we can say the things that we want. But I couldn't do this with somebody that wasn't going to be like, this sucked and it was embarrassing and I went through it.
Yeah.
You know?
All right. Final question. So here you are at this point, 32 episodes in, and you're starting to do live audience events. Your first one was in Caroline's Comedy Club in New York, and you guys like sold that out in an instant, and it was a rabid crowd. It was an exciting night.
What'd you say, Rob? Or what'd you say? It was like Ellen?
It was like, I don't know. It was
Mark
like Ellen.
it was like Ellen.
It was like if Ellen.
They're screaming. I'm like, it was.
It was like
Oprah.
Ellen if it was explicit rating, right?
Yeah.
All
like
of
just
friends,
the fan. Like it's like
her friends were like, you've no idea what is going on in that room right now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And then you had a second. It was last night, I believe it was your second live event.
2 nights ago
Two
with
nights
Mouth
ago,
Media
second.
and Bloom, which was a much different format. It was more panel discussion with people that are like a little bit older and a little less drunk. And
it wasn't a comedy club, so it just was a whole different vibe.
And then you have more that are scheduled coming up. So my question for you is one, why the live events now? Why did you decide this was something that you needed to start doing? How did that fit into the plan? And second of all, how are the live shows different so far from doing in the studio? And the third one is, don't worry, I'll remind you what the questions are. And then the third part of this, so you can start anywhere you want. So it's why the live shows? How are the live shows different? And then the third thing is how does this fit in with the master plan?
Yeah, you want to talk about why? Because I think you were such a good driver for like doing live shows.
Well, I mean, I do stand up. I love to be on stage and have attention. I mean, duh. No, I mean, yeah, it was a no-brainer for me. Like, of course, I want to bring anything I do to the stage, and you know, we didn't know how Rayna was going to be if she crushed it. It was just like shocking. Not shocking. It wasn't. She just knocked it out of the park. She wasn't even nervous. It was crazy to me. So Caroline's on Broadway. Here we are, sold out crowd screaming her name. She's never been on stage before and just crushed. So I think it was always something I was like, of course we're going to do this. I mean, my goal, and I looked at some other podcasts that I respect, was like, yeah, you do the podcast and you like tour the world, you know, and then that's an additional revenue stream and you just kind of become celebrity in a way. I'm not saying I want to be a famous person, but like I want Ellen. This to be my whole life. Yeah. So it was like, of course we're going to tour. We're going to have a book. We're going to do all the things. I mean, this is like the career path. So, and we were, we've been thinking about it ourselves, and we just obviously it was just both. Maybe I brought it up, but Rayna was instantly on board, and then we got approached by an agency that we work with to like kind of set up our tour for us, and now they're handling that for us. So, and the fact that they thought that we were so like worthy of doing this, we already knew, but to have someone be like, "We're a huge agency, we want to do this for you guys," we're like, "Go for it." They're
the agency to like have their stamp of approval is so important to us, and to take that and like see it ourselves. Like I feel like we collaborate really well, and Ashley has so many good ideas. Especially like I defer to her because she has done stage work and I haven't. But we want the podcast to be a real experience for people when we do it live. We want to create like a really fun, one-of-a-kind experience. And so we want to bring in guests. We want it to be funny and engaging. We want the guests to be appropriate for the audience. So Caroline's Comedy Club is a different audience than like a more I don't know, just a panel discussion, a professional panel discussion.
Like a networking crowd, yeah.
Right. But we really want it to be not like a 3-ring circus of hilarity, but that's sort of how it was. We had former guests on. We had a comedian open the show. We want to involve the audience as much as we're comfortable with and as much as they're comfortable with. We were able to do that last time. It was great. But I think that we were really successful at making it like a one-of-a-kind experience for people, not just like we're going to get on stage and focus on one topic.
Well, and that was like your third question is how different is it than an actual podcast, correct? So, and
Good memory.
Yeah. Well, because Rayna just transitioned that perfectly. So when we come in here and we do these episodes, they're based on like one specific topic, like how to get over a breakup or when you should sleep with somebody for the first time, whatever it may be. Those are 2 actual episodes. And we were planning on doing that as in the show. And we were figuring out what topic is universal. And then like a few weeks before the show, Rayna was kind of like, what if we did it this way? What if we broke it up more? We took listener emails. We took these things that people have been asking us and she even said for future shows, and I was like, no, let's do it for Caroline's. Cause like she was exactly right. We don't want to sit up there and talk for an hour on one topic. We need to mix it up. We need to keep people engaged. And we brought in different guests for different questions. And it was my favorite thing she's ever done. Like, I don't know what she feels like her biggest like accomplishment is in this podcast, but it was like, I can't imagine if we hadn't done it that way. Like, oh my God, we're about to like tour the country and she set up the whole structure of the thing. Like I knew we wanted to have a stand-up come out and open and hype the crowd. I knew that. That's like my world. I knew who we wanted to have and someone that can work a crowd and get them excited. And then for Rayna to be like, let's do it this way. So the live shows are set up very differently. We still going to do the game at the end. We're going to take audience questions and play our signature game. Is this weird? But it's broken up way more. We cover way more ground. We bring in our experts for each thing. And so it's different. Attribute it to Rayna.
Thanks. It's a variety show.
Yeah. But as far as the topics, and I love that we did that because you're at Caroline's or wherever, you're drinking martinis, you came in screaming, like you're all dressed up for the night. You don't want to have us sit and like hone in on a topic for an hour. Like keep it going, read crazy emails. Like the subject lines were insane. Like it was just, we kept it super fun and like engaging and like constantly moving. And I'm just so grateful that you had that idea.
It doesn't sound like the worst job in the world. It's pretty cool. So
it's a dream.
Every day I cry.
So I literally have like 20 more questions for you, but that I know that we're out of time. So I'd like to just
girls gotta eat. We gotta go to dinner.
So I'd like to just leave you with this. Looking ahead 1 year from now, being in the world of reality and not just, anything's possible. What do you see for yourself a year from now related to this podcast? What's the aim at that point in time?
I just feel like we've accomplished so many goals, like in such a fast-tracked way. Like we're going to do a holiday show for 500 people at like one of the biggest venues in New York City. Like I feel like we've fast-tracked so many things. And so now I'm like, well, what else is possible? Like, could I sell out the Garden next year?
City Field next year.
Animated, series.
I've never had like such a set plan in my life. I kind of ride the wave. So I think we're both kind of like that. Like if something comes up and it's a good fit, like neither Rayna and I neither of us are itching to be on TV. Like if a show comes across and we think we want to do it, we would do it. Would love a book. A book's always been on my list to have. Touring more. I mean, I think we're just going to keep moving forward and like we have the right team in place. We're running ads, making money. I think it's just like in a year, I mean, right now we both still run our Instagram accounts. I don't think we're not going to be not doing that, but like this will be totally our main thing and like totally main, hopefully source of income and like our whole life. So hopefully we don't get in a fight.
I said it the other day, what if we have to go to couples therapy?
Hopefully we don't break up.
But I think it'll just keep growing. And I agree. I mean, I've always just sort of taken the risks as they come, and I think it's silly. I was on a date with somebody recently that kept like battering me for like
badgering. Battering's beating.
I'm tired. Kept badgering me for like what my like 3-year plan or 5-year plan is. I don't believe in those things.
Okay.
Never done it.
For some people, you need those things if you're in specific professions. But I think that it's silly to pick a 2-year plan for an industry that's so young and so new and is constantly changing every day. So I've always said like I want to walk through every door. I want to see what's behind it. Hopefully something good we can make of it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How can people connect with Girls Gotta Eat?
Listen to the show we're iTunes and Spotify, wherever you find podcasts. subscribe, rate, review. I guess our main engagement on social media is really on Instagram. I mean, we're on Twitter and Facebook, but Girls Gotta Eat Podcast is the handle. And you'll see pictures of us, funny memes. It's comedy as well. And we do a lot with the Instagram stories, and we announce our shows there. And then when is this coming out?
Probably tomorrow, actually.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to talk about live shows?
Yeah, we have live shows coming up in Atlanta, Nashville, Chicago. Nashville, they can still get tickets if they want. The show is on October 11th.
Yeah. So if anybody from Nashville, the other two are sold out. We'll be back to Chicago and Atlanta, but not this time because no tickets available. Like it's totally sold out. And then we're not going to say the details, but big holiday show.
Woohoo!
We're excited.
And as a couple, maybe one of your shows here should be to bring in a couples counselor and see what they have to say.
No, what if they say bad? We're fine. We're doing okay, Mark. Okay.
We had a sex counselor last week, but he didn't have anything to say about our relationship
because we don't have sex.
Now, as people dating, sorry, one last add-on. People dating, do you find that you may actually have people that shy away from you because they're concerned that you'll talk about them, or is that actually a magnet?
I'm glad that you asked that question because my mother has posed this question to me and ex-boyfriends have, and I have the same response to everybody. I think that you should always behave in a relationship like the person has an international podcast that can put you on blast if you do not behave appropriately.
Oh and that's fantastic.
And I can't imagine why somebody wouldn't treat you nicely or kindly. Maybe they're a little more private, but I think Ashley and I, to be a little more serious, are very sensitive. We made some mistakes in the beginning. I certainly did, about giving too many details about something that is private and sacred to another person. And so I think we are pretty sensitive to not doing that.
I mean, yes, we are sensitive to it, but as far as ever caring if a guy doesn't want to date me, I don't care, because what am I going to do? Like, it's like there's not we're not going to stop the podcast. So if you don't want to date me because this podcast, then we're not going to date, because like this comes first.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when I get to it. If one of us meets somebody that we really, really like and we really see a future with, and they really don't want to be mentioned, we're just I'm not gonna think about it and stress about it. We'll see what happens when it happens. Yeah.
All right. Well, Ashley and Rayna, thank you so much. Girls Gotta Eat. Check it out, and really appreciate the kind of look under the hood a little bit.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
That's it? That's the end of the show? Boy, oh boy, what a crock. This was Funny People Talking.
No portion of the content may be reproduced or published without the strict written permission of the producers. Connect with our show at Funny People Talking or at our website, funnypeopletalking.com. I'm your announcer, Peter Coleman. Thanks for listening.
This is Mouth Media Network, the business of being heard.